Hello guys, and welcome to another tutorial here on my channel. In this video we're going to consider or learn how to export this 2D floor plan from AutoCAD and then render it into a photorealistic architectural building plan having furnitures and flooring materials looking beautifully just like what we have on the screen. Now it is important to note that aesthetics is one of the important components in architectural designs, which makes architectural plans more visually appealing and better for presentation. So in this video we're going to consider how to export this very particular 2D floor plan from AutoCAD and then render it into a photorealistic floor plan having furnitures and then flooring materials just like this. Now let's jump into AutoCAD and see how we can export this drawing. Alright, so this is a 2D floor plan which we shall be exporting from AutoCAD and then making use of Photoshop to render it into a photorealistic floor plan. Now before we get started with this tutorial, if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and then press the bell icon to get notification on my latest video. And if you have been following me, once again thank you for stopping by for another session of this tutorial. And with that being said, let's get started with this tutorial. So before you can export this floor plan from AutoCAD into Photoshop, we're going to turn off some layers which are not needed. So we'll go over to the layers tab and then we're going to turn up layers for text. We'll also turn up the layers where we have furnitures or block, and we call it turn up the layers where we have the hatches. And then we're going to delete these lines which we use to represent our wardrobe. So we're going to delete this. Equally, we'll also select this line and have it deleted, and then here also I will delete this line. Then I will make sure I close up this area of the wall before we can export. So select all of this and have it deleted, and then I will change over to the wall and then make use of line tool to cover up these open walls just like this. Then after that, the next thing we're going to do is, before we can plot this drawing into Photoshop, we're going to install Adobe Plotter into AutoCAD before we can be able to export this drawing. So to do that, I'm going to click on this AutoCAD icon and I'll go over to where I have options, and then from here on the plot and publish tab, I'm going to click on add or configure plotters. And then from here I have the add a plotter wizard, so I'll double click to open this, and then from here you click on next, and then this is going to be my computer, so you have this box checked, and then we click on next. So from here we have Adobe, and make sure that here we have PostScript level 1 plus selected, and then we click on next. Go ahead and click on next. Again we are going to click on next, and then we can rename this to PostScript level 1 plus, let's say 1, and then we click on next, and then finally click on finished. And so you can see that we have the Adobe Plotter already added to AutoCAD. So there are others that I've added, so you can see we have PostScript level 1 plus Photoshop and then PostScript level 1 plus. So when we're done with this, we can then close this window and then click on apply and click on OK. So we have Adobe Plotter already installed in Photoshop. The next thing now we are to export this drawing. So again we go over to where we have this AutoCAD icon, and I'm going to click on print, and then from this plot model dialog box, from printer / plotter drop down menu, I'll scroll down and make sure I have either this PostScript level 1 plus or any of these Adobe Photoshop Plotter selected, and then I'll have this checkbox ticked so that we're going to save this file at the end of the day. And then for paper size, this is already set to default ISO A4 paper size. And then for the plot area, this is going to be, and then I'm going to center the plot. And then for the plot style, make sure this is monochrome, and then we can click on yes. And then for the shade plot or shaded viewport option, I'll select legacy wireframe, and then we can go ahead and preview what we want to plot. So this is what we have. Alright, so before we go ahead, there's one more thing that we needed to turn off in this particular floor plan. So we're going to go back, we're going to cancel, and then you see these flowers, we're going to turn it off from the layers panel. So we have this 3D floor plan where it is located, so we have it turned up, and then we can go ahead again, go to print, and then from here make sure that we have Photoshop selected, and then we check this box. The paper size is already set, and this is going to be extent, this is monochrome, and this is going to be legacy wireframe, and then we're going to center the plot and then go ahead to preview. So this is what we're going to export from AutoCAD. We can then close, and then finally we click on OK to export this drawing. So we're going to name this let's say floor plan, or just floor, and then go ahead to save. So while we'll be waiting for AutoCAD to export this drawing, we can then close this window. Alright, so we have this drawing already plotted and published. So we're going to go ahead and minimize AutoCAD, and then we're going to minimize this as well, and then we're going to locate where this file is being saved. So I'll click on document, and you can see that this file is already plotted. So we have 3D bedroom bungalow 1 model EPS floor. So this is the Photoshop file which we just exported from AutoCAD. So we're going to go ahead and double click on this to open it in Photoshop. Alright, so here in Photoshop, this is the file, and we can set up the size of the page or the canvas from here, but I'm going to leave this as the width of 20.99 and the height of 29.7. I'll go ahead and click on OK, and there you go. You can see this floor plan having a clean background. So this is in PNG file format, so the background is erased. So this is how your drawing is supposed to look like when you export it from AutoCAD, for you to be able to render it with Photoshop. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a white background. So I'll right click here and go to solid color, and in this case I'll choose a white color and I'll click on OK, and then I'm going to move this layer down. So if I pick the zoom tool, I can zoom so you see the floor plan which we just exported from AutoCAD looking like this. So with this, we're going to make use of this to design our photorealistic floor plan in Photoshop. So now again, I'll pick the layer 1 layer, and then I'll select all the walls and have it shaded. So for me to be able to accomplish that, I'll use the magic wand tool. So if you don't have it here, you should right click, and then you see the tools here. We have the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool. So pick the magic wand tool, and then where we have this wall, I'm going to click to have this wall highlighted like this, and then I'll press the shift key on the keyboard and make sure all the walls are selected or highlighted. So we do it one after the other, just like this. So when we are done selecting all the walls, we can then come over to where we have this icon and right click, and we select solid color, and in this case I'm going to apply black color for the walls. So apply the black color and go ahead and click on OK, and then we can see all our walls being painted or being selected, highlighted with the black color like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and select this layer and then move this downward. The next thing I'm going to do is to use the magic wand tool again and select all the rooms areas, and then we're going to apply materials on them as well. So make sure the layer 1 is selected, and then make sure the magic wand tool also is selected. So we're going to select this room area, just click, and Photoshop can automatically detect the area where we have this room. So make sure you're selecting this room area, you hold down the shift key to add to the selections. Alright, so now we have all the rooms selected or highlighted, so you can see these dashed lines circling around the areas that have been selected using the magic wand tool. So again, we're going to go ahead and go to where we have this icon, and we'll apply solid color and we'll maintain white color and click on OK. The next thing is we go to this layer which we just created and right click, go to blending options, and then we're going to go over to pattern overlay, and from here we can choose a pattern. And before we can open the pattern or choose a pattern, we have downloaded some materials, some different pattern materials online, of which I'm going to leave the link of the materials on the description of this video, so if you wish to download and practice alongside. So I'm going to go over and then open those materials and define it as pattern in AutoCAD. So I'll go over to File tab and I'll click on Open, and I'll click on Desktop. I'll click on my folder and I'll go to Download. So I have all these materials already, so I'm going to choose this very particular material, or let's go with this for the rooms. So I'm going to click on this and click on Open, and this is going to open up in Photoshop. Then we can click on this to drop the magic wand tool. So once we have this open in Photoshop, this very particular flooring pattern open, we can go to Edit and then define this image or this pattern as what we can make use of in Photoshop. So this is the name. We can decide to change this. We can leave it as this. We go ahead and click on OK. So this has already been defined in Photoshop as a pattern. We can then go back to our floor plan, and from the layers which we just created, we right click, go to blending option, and then from this layer style dialog box, we select the pattern again, and then we're going to pick the pattern which we just added. So we have it here. So if I can move this aside, you can see how the pattern is being applied in all the areas which we selected. So we can then play around with the scale and adjust it until it is fit the way we want it. So we want something like this, should be better. We can as well play with the opacity, or something like this should look better. And then we're going to drop inner shadow to make this photorealistic. So we drop inner shadow on this. We can make some adjustment, increase the distance, increase the size, and maybe change the angle to let's say 90, and then this should look good like this. Again, we're going to go over to the layer where we created for our walls, and we'll go over to blending options and also apply a drop shadow on this. So this is going to look more realistic, like a 3D floor plan, more or less like this. So we can click on OK, and I want to adjust the shadow for our rooms. So I can adjust the shadow to this, and this should be okay. And once you're okay with this, we can then go ahead again. We're going to select this layer and move it downward, and we're going to go back to layer 1, which is our floor plan, and then we can select other areas of this particular floor plan. So we make sure we have the magic wand tool selected, and the next material I'm going to apply is going to be on the toilet areas, and then where we have the store. So I'm going to click this area, and then we have the magic wand tool highlighting those areas, and then I'll hold the shift key on the keyboard and then go ahead and then highlight or select all these areas where we have the bat or the WC, and then we select all these areas just like this. And when we're done selecting, we're going to go over to where we have this icon, right click, select solid color. I'm going to maintain white color, and I'll click on OK. Again, we're going to go over to the materials which we're going to use for this very particular toilet areas. So I'm done with this pattern. I can go ahead and close it, and no, then click on File menu and click on Open, and I can scroll down. So I decided to use this very particular material here for our toilet area. So I'm going to leave the link to all these materials on the comment section. So if you wish to make use of this, you can download those materials from there and use it to practice alongside. So click on open, and this pattern has been opened in Photoshop. We can then go to edit tab and then click on define pattern and set this pattern in Photoshop. Now go back to our drawing and then make sure this layer which we just created is selected. Right click, go to blending options and choose pattern overlay, so it will apply the pattern that was used initially. We can then go to this pattern, click on this drop down and then define this pattern which we just selected. And again, we can go ahead and play with the scale. You can see that all this pattern has been applied where we have the toilet or the WC or the bath areas here in the rooms and the store. And I'm going to play around with the scale to make this look a bit better. So you can scale it up or you can scale it down. So I think something like this should look okay. And once you're satisfied with the outcome of what we have here, we're going to go ahead and apply inner shadow. So this is going to look more of like a 3D realistic floor plan. And then we can go ahead and make adjustment here as well, increase or reduce the distance of this particular inner shadow which we just applied. And then when we are okay, also we can go ahead and click on okay. And then we are done applying our patterns to the bedroom or the WC areas. The next place we're going to apply is on where we have the lounge and then where we have the dining over this area. So again, select this layer which we just created and we can move it down to this very particular position. Then select layer 1 which has the floor plan, and as well go back and select the magic wand tool. We can then select this area and use the shift key to add to the selection. So press and hold on the shift key, have this area selected, also have this area selected, and have this area selected. So we have the selections made like this. And again, we're going to click on this icon, select solid color and create a white color and click on OK. Now we're going to choose a pattern which we're going to use for this very particular area. So we're going to click on file and click on open, and here I decided to use this particular floor or this pattern of flooring for the lounge and the dining area. So I'm going to click on open in Photoshop and I have this pattern open. Then go ahead, go to edit tab and define this as a pattern in Photoshop, and then we can click on OK. Now when you're done with that, go back to the drawing and then make sure the layer we just created, which is a color field 5, right click, go to blending options. Again, we're going to click on pattern overlay, and the previous pattern is applied. We can then go and change this pattern to the one we just imported into Photoshop. So now we have this pattern applied. Again, we can play around with the scale until we are satisfied with the outcome. So I'm going to go ahead, adjust the scale. It's alright. So I think this should be okay. So if you're not satisfied with this, take your time and play around with the scale so that it looks more realistic. We can also adjust the opacity of this. You can increase the opacity or reduce the opacity. And to make this 3D realistic, we're going to apply inner shadow on this very particular pattern. Again, we can play around with the shadow distance and then the size as well. When you're satisfied with this, go ahead and click on OK. And now we've been able to successfully apply this pattern on the lounge and then on the dining area. Next, we're going to go ahead and then pick where we have the passage and the lobby and the kitchen area, and as well apply the pattern. So we select this pattern which we created, move it downward, and select layer 1 which has the floor plan we exported from AutoCAD. Again, we're going to select the magic wand tool and click on this area to create a selection or highlight this area, and hold the shift key to add to the selection. We're going to click this little space, we're going to click this kitchen area, and we're going to click this area as well. And now we have this area selected or highlighted. We'll go ahead, click on this icon, create a solid color, and we're going to apply white color and click on OK. And then we're going to define another pattern for this as well. So go to the pattern and we can delete this which we already make use of, and go to file tab, go to open, and then here we make use of this very particular pattern. Okay, so there was a change in pattern, so I'm going to apply this pattern, this very particular one, to the lounge and dining, and then I will switch over this pattern for that of the lobby and the passage. So again, select this pattern, click on open, and here is open in Photoshop. We can go to edit and then define as pattern and name it whatever you feel, and click on OK. Then go back to our drawing, and I'm going to make changes where we have this lounge and dining. I decided to use a different pattern, so go back and select this particular layer and right click, go to blending options, and then go to the pattern, and here we're going to change the pattern from what it is to what we just imported. So we prefer, or this pattern is more preferable for the lounge and the dining area. Again, I'm going to adjust the scale, and I think this is okay. I can also adjust the shadow, and once you're satisfied with this, we can go ahead and click on OK. And then back to the layer which we just created, we can then right click, go to blending options, and then go to pattern overlay, and we can define the pattern to the previous one which we used. So this is the previous pattern which was used, and I think this is looking okay. We can go ahead and or let's adjust the inner shadow in this case. This is looking okay, so we can go ahead, click on OK, and then we have also been able to define the pattern for the passage and then the lobby area and the kitchen area as well. Now again, we're going to define the pattern for where we have this kitchen veranda and where we have the entrance porch. But before we do that, let's move this layer down and select layer 1, which is having the imported floor plan from AutoCAD, and select the magic wand tool, and we can select this area. But before we do that, let's zoom so that we can have a good view of this. So go back to magic wand and select this area, hold the shift key, and let's add to the selection just like this, and we can scroll up and then select this kitchen veranda area, and then we can then go ahead, click on this icon at the bottom and create a solid color fill which is white. And after that, the next thing is to apply the pattern. So again, I'm going to go ahead and define another pattern for this in Photoshop. So go to file, click on open, and for this very particular veranda area, I decided to use this pattern. So click on this pattern and click on open, and now you have it open in Photoshop. We click on the edit tab and define this as a pattern. You can rename it and go ahead and click on OK. Now back to our drawing, let's make use of zoom and fit to screen, and we can zoom out a bit to have a good view of this. So now right click on this layer which is just created and go to blending option, and then click on pattern overlay. So this is still applying the previous pattern. Then go to pattern overlay and make sure you have the pattern that's just exported selected, and then we're going to adjust the scale of this, so we can drag down the scale. I think this should be okay. Yeah, pretty good. This is looking better. Again, we're going to apply inner shadow on this to look photorealistic. We can then adjust the distance and the size, and you can go ahead, play around with this until this is okay, and then click on OK, and then we now apply all the patterns. Now we're left with this kitchen cabinet area to apply a pattern on this. So I'm going to select this previous layer again, pull it down, select layer 1, and then select the magic wand tool and select this area. Go ahead, right click on this icon and create a solid white color, and then we can close the previous pattern and click on file, go to open, and then I decided to use this very particular pattern for the kitchen cabinet. So we can open this in Photoshop and click on edit tab, go to define pattern, rename this if you so wish, and click on OK. And then back to our floor plan, select this layer which we just created, right click and go to blending option, and then click on pattern overlay rather, and define or choose the previous pattern which we just imported rather in Photoshop. So we have this pattern selected. You can again go ahead, play with the scale, but I think this is okay for me. And we're going to apply inner shadow as well to look 3D realistic, and we can click on OK. And I think we've been able to apply patterns in all these areas. Now we are left with the columns areas where we have the columns. So I'll go ahead and zoom, and again make use of the word magic wand tool, and make sure layer 1 is selected. And again I'm going to zoom this so that I can have a good selection, and then use the magic wand tool, and I'm going to select all these areas just like this. Okay, so we're going to zoom again, so zoom out and go back to magic wand tool and hold the shift key to add to selection. Again we can then go up and then select add to selections of these columns from the top. So now we have all of this selected. We can again go ahead, click on this, go to solid color, and for this case we're going to define this as a black color and click on OK. And then we can zoom to fit the screen and zoom out a bit to have our floor plan looking like this. So this is okay, and we have all the patterns applied on this floor plan, and this looks cool and more visually appealing. So the next thing we're going to do is to bring in the furnitures, a bed, toilet furnitures and other things, kitchen furnitures and so on. So go ahead, I have also downloaded furnitures, PNG furnitures that I'm going to apply to this, and I will leave the link to the description on the description section for you to download these PNG files which you can use to practice alongside. So click on file, and I'm going to click select place embedded, so I can scroll down so you can see I have different furnitures already downloaded. So first I'm going to apply the bed furniture, so I make use of this and I'll click on place. We can then adjust the scale and make sure this is checked so that the aspect ratio is maintained. We can scale this down all the way and move this to this position. Go ahead, scale it until you're satisfied with the outcome, and we can still scale it down. And we can as well rotate, so we can rotate this to minus 90 degrees, and we can click on OK and use the zoom tool so that we can place this in position. Again, select this furniture, this bed furniture, and we can adjust it to fit into position. We can go ahead, adjust the scale, and we can place it here. So you can take your time and make sure you adjust it to fit into position. Now when you look at this, this looks like it's floating on top of the plan. So to make this realistic, we're going to apply shadow on this particular bed. So we right click on the layer that has the bed we imported, and then click on blending options, and there we can apply drop shadow, and we can also adjust this shadow, play around with the size, with the spread, and we can change this to normal, adjust the opacity. So we are satisfied with the outcome of this very particular layer. We can go ahead, click on OK. So you take your time and make necessary adjustment for this to look photorealistic or look realistic like a 3D or a 2D floor plan rendered with Photoshop. So I think this is okay. And the next furniture we're going to bring in this particular position is the wardrobe. So we have the wardrobe placed in this area. So before we can do that, I'm going to duplicate this very particular bed furniture in all the bedrooms. So I'll select this and click on or press Ctrl J on the keyboard to duplicate this, and then I can drag one of these, a copy of this, and then Ctrl T to transform this. So I'm going to rotate this, so this should be 0 degrees, and I can adjust the position to somewhere like this, and this should be looking okay, just like this. But before we do that, I want to adjust a curve, or I want to apply a curve on this very particular furniture. So this looks more brighter than the background or the floor which we have. So select this and then go to where we have this icon, click on curves and click on this icon to have it applied on only this bed furniture. We can then raise this, so this is okay, and then go ahead and close this. So here we can duplicate all this bed to different bedrooms. So Ctrl J to duplicate this. We can then move this to this position, Ctrl T to transform, and then rotate this to 0, and this is going to fit in into this position. So we can adjust it to the position we wish, and then again Ctrl J to duplicate, and then Ctrl J and move a copy of that to where we have this bedroom as well. Again, we're going to rotate this by -90 degrees, and then we can adjust the position until it fits, and we can duplicate this to look photorealistic. So Ctrl J, and then we have our bed furniture placed already in this floor plan. So again, now we're going to go ahead and bring in the wardrobe furniture. So I'll select this, click on the file tab and click on place embedded, and then I'm going to locate the furniture. So I don't have it here. This should be located where I have this PNG image. So I have all of these files downloaded. I'm going to leave the link in the description section where you can download it and make use of it for your practice drawing. Alright, so this is the wardrobe furniture which I downloaded as well. So I'm going to select this and click on place, and this is at the back of the plan. So I'm going to select this and delete it. Make sure the first layer is selected. Again, go to the file tab and place embedded, and again I'll select this wardrobe and click on place. Okay, still going behind, we can make use of, we can move this to the top by using, alright, so now we have it at the top, and we can zoom out so that we can adjust this. So Ctrl T, we can adjust this wardrobe. Make sure this is selected to maintain the aspect ratio. So go ahead, adjust this until you are okay with the size. We can then rotate. So we're going to rotate this by 90 degrees and click on OK. Again, we can zoom, and then Ctrl T again to adjust this, and make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and then adjust until you are comfortable or you're satisfied with the outcome. And we can carefully place this into that position and click OK. Again, we're going to go ahead and apply the shadow on this. So we can again adjust the shadow here, reduce the distance, and maybe reduce the size, and I think this should be okay. And we can then duplicate this, so Ctrl J to duplicate it, and we can then copy it to other parts of the bedrooms. So here we have this, we're going to rotate. So Ctrl T to transform, and we're going to rotate this by 180 degrees. And click OK. We can then adjust the position. Carefully place this, and if that is okay, you can then click out The next thing we're going to also duplicate this, so Ctrl J to where we have this bedroom as well, and we can rotate this again, and this time around the rotation is going to be 180 degrees, or rather 90 degrees, and then we can then adjust the position and make sure we place it properly, just like this. And when you're satisfied with the outcome, you can go ahead and do others. So for the purpose of time and to make this tutorial short, so I'm going to do everything as fast as possible. So when you're doing this, you can take your time as much as you can to place all the elements or all the furnitures to fit in as you so wish. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring in our furniture for the lounge and the dining. So I'm going to bring in the furniture for the lounge. So click on File tab and go to Place Embedded, and we're going to go back to Download where we have all the furnitures. So I have this furniture which I used for the lounge area, so I'll click on Placed and then wait for this to load, and we're going to make use of zoom tool so that we can adjust this and fit to screen, and then we can adjust this very particular furniture. Make sure the aspect ratio is maintained by clicking on this, and we can adjust this until we are satisfied with the size. So go ahead and adjust, and I'll check this and then again zoom out. So we zoom fit to screen and we can zoom out. So we now zoom out and make sure this is well placed. Again, I'm going to rotate this, so Ctrl T to transform, and I want to rotate this furniture this way like this. So I have rotation here of 180 degrees, and we can click OK, and a little adjustment in the scale, so we can adjust this and open it out. I think this should look more better. And if you look at this, it's as if it's floating on top of this very particular plan. So we're going to apply shadow as well. So right click on the layer, go to blending options and click on drop shadow, and I think this is okay, so we can leave it like this. So if it's not okay, you can take your time, make necessary adjustment, and I can adjust it to have it placed like this. And I have the furniture for the lounge area placed. The next thing I'm going to do is to place the furniture for the dining area. So again, click on File tab, Place Embedded, and I have this very particular dining table, and I also have this other dining table. So I use this instead of the first one. So I'll click on Place, and again I'm going to zoom so that I can be able to adjust or scale this very particular dining table. So zoom to fit, select this dining table, Ctrl T and transform this, and we can then scale this down. Make sure this is checked so that the scale or the aspect ratio is maintained, and then we can go ahead and then scale this down and then place it. Again, we can zoom out, and then we're still going to transform this, so we can scale it up, and I think this should be okay. We can go ahead and apply. We can go ahead, select this first furniture for the lounge, right click and go to copy layer style, and we can copy the shadow that was applied and then paste it onto this dining. And this we need to adjust the shadow that is created. So go to the shadow, we can decrease the size, and I think this should be okay. Click on OK and then make a little adjustment. So take your time and make sure this is well placed. I'm going to go ahead and bring in other furnitures for toilet areas. So I'll go to the first layer and click on File tab, click on Place Embedded, and then I'll select the toilet furnitures. So I'm going to select this first and click on Place, Again, we're going to zoom to fit. First place this, we can then zoom to fit, and we select this and make adjustment. So drag this and Ctrl T to transform, and we can adjust this. Make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and we can scale this down relatively very small, and again go back to zoom, and we can zoom out. So we zoom out up to this extent and drag this toilet, and we're going to rotate this. Okay, Ctrl Z, and make sure Ctrl T to transform. We can then rotate this by minus 90 degrees like this. Go ahead and scale it down, and the aspect ratio is being maintained, so we can scale it down up to this level, and then scale it down a bit, and I think this should be okay. And we click and have this placed. Go ahead, copy the shadow from the other layers and paste it on this very particular layer. So paste layer, and we have the shadow applied, and then Ctrl J to duplicate this to other areas. Okay, Ctrl Z, we can duplicate this and move it to other areas where we have the toilet, and make sure this is carefully placed. Again, Ctrl J to duplicate this, and we can move it to where we have this toilet, and then Ctrl T to transform, and we can rotate this to 0, and we're going to adjust this down a little, reduce the scale, and click on OK. Go ahead and make sure it's well placed the way you so wished. So we have the toilet placed. The next thing we're going to do is to bring in our sink. So we again go to select the first layer, and go to File tab, go to Place Embedded, and we have this very particular sink. So I'm going to click on Place. Again, we can place this first, and then make use of the zoom to fit screen, and then Ctrl T to transform this. Scale this down, make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and then you can scale this down all the way like this, and after that we can zoom so that we can place this properly. So zoom out. Again, we're going to zoom out, and Ctrl T to transform. We can then scale this down, keep the aspect ratio checked, and then we can rotate this. Okay, I'll place this sink at this position. First one is going to be placed here, and I think this is okay. I'm going to go ahead, copy the shadow from the previous layer and paste it on this very particular layer to look photorealistic. Ctrl J to duplicate this, and we have this sink on this other area as well. Ctrl T to transform. We can then rotate this by 180 degrees, and we can go ahead carefully have this placed in this area. So we have our sink placed in that area, and then we have one more toilet here. So we select this sink, Ctrl J to duplicate, and we can then copy that to this position. So select this, Ctrl T to transform. We can then rotate this by 90 degrees, and then carefully we're going to scale this down again, so we can scale it down, and then carefully place this at this position. And I think this looks good. So now we're done with placing the toilet furnitures, and then we can go ahead again, make use of the zoom and fit screen. Now we are left with placing of kitchen furniture, and let's say the flowers in this area as well. So again, go to File tab, but before that, make sure the first layer, the previous layer which we just imported, is selected. Then go to File tab and go to Place Embedded, and then I have this kitchen sink wash hand sink, and we have these very particular gas. So we can select this and click on place. Go ahead and scale this down. Make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and we can rotate this by 90 degrees, and we can scale this down. And okay, so I'm going to bring in also the other element, and then we're going to place it carefully all together. So select these guys and then go to place. Again, we can adjust this, make sure the aspect ratio is maintained. Again, go ahead and rotate this by 90 degrees, and we can scale this down like this, and we place. Now we can then zoom out and make sure these elements are well placed. So first, pick this sink, and I think we need to rotate this again, so Ctrl T to transform, and we can rotate this by 180 degrees, and go ahead, transform, scale this down, make sure the aspect ratio is checked. Go ahead and scale this down, and take your time to place this properly the way you wish. Scale it down. Okay, we're going to scale. Alright, so again we're going to adjust this gas, so Ctrl T to transform, make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and we can scale this down. Go ahead, scale this and scale this down, and we can scale up a bit. And now we have our kitchen element placed. Then the next thing to place is a flower at this very particular area. So go to file and click on place embedded, and I decided to make use of this flower, so click on place. And again, we're going to zoom to fit so that we can be able to scale down this very particular flower. So zoom to fit, and we can adjust this flower all the way down. Make sure the aspect ratio is checked, and scale this down relatively very small. Make sure the aspect ratio is maintained, and after that we can then zoom out again. So we zoom out, and then we can place this flower. Still Ctrl T to transform, scale this down, and the aspect ratio should be maintained. And we have this flower at this position like this. And when you're satisfied, you can click on OK, Ctrl J to duplicate, and we have another flower here. Ctrl J to duplicate, and we have another one here. Ctrl J to duplicate, and we have another flower at these positions. So we have all the flower placed, and now we have all the element placed. So this is just a tutorial, so you can take your time based on the floor plan you're designing and place all the components which you so wish to place. So we can then zoom to fit, and we're going to crop this. We're going to crop this so that we can have a better view of this floor plan. So I'll make use of the crop tool, and I can crop all the way and crop all the way down to this position, and I think this is okay. Alright, so after cropping, we can then go ahead and make use of the zoom tool and zoom to fit screen, and we have this floor plan looking beautiful like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to place in our text. So I'm going to select the text tool and click, and I'll type in our text. So this is bedroom first, bedroom 1, and the dimension here is 3.4 by 3.4 meters, and I can change the color. So go ahead, select this, and from here we can change the color to a black color. and then adjust the size of this text. So this should be adjusted all the way down like this, and I'm going to rotate this by minus 90 degrees. So this is minus 90, and click on OK, and we can go ahead and adjust this text all the way like this. So once we place this, we can press Ctrl J to duplicate, and we can edit all the text for the various rooms, and then after that, when you're satisfied, we can then go ahead and render our plan. Now, for the purpose of saving our time, I'm going to delete this and I'll open the previous drawing which I already made. So go ahead, go to file, and I have the recent file, and this should be this very particular file. I guess this should be okay. This is not. So go to file tab and go to open recent, and the recent file which was created should be this very particular one. Alright, so this was the recent one which I created, and let's go ahead and zoom and see if there are some changes or some things we are missing in this very particular plan. So I think everything is looking okay except for the text which we have not placed. Alright, I also noticed the floor material which I used for this is for this bedroom is also different from that which I used here, but that's not a problem. We can use any material for our flooring so long as any of them you prefer. So what I'm going to do is to select all this text which I have in this very particular plan I already created. So hold the shift key and we're going to select all the text like this. We can go ahead, select all the text from this very particular position. So I'm going to select this, hold the shift key, select this, and I'll select all the text which I already created, and I'm going to copy it from this position to the one we are currently working on. So now I have all of them selected, and I'm going to create a group. So I have all this text grouped into one layer. So I can then select this text and drag to where we have the current drawing which we are working on. So this is the text. We can drag it, but before I drag it, I'm going to select this and delete this. Then I can select it again and drag this to position to look like this, and I think this is okay. Can make a little adjustment, and with this I think we have come to the end of this tutorial. So this is how you can render a 2D floor plan using Photoshop. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share if you learned something from this video. Don't forget to leave us a comment in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and the last thing we're going to do is to export this very particular floor plan and then make it look more sharp and realistic with the use of the camera raw feature in Photoshop. So I'll select this layer and right click, and I'm going to say mesh visible. So this will have all the layers meshed together to become a one single layer. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to go to filter, but then the camera raw filter is not activated here. So first I'm going to export this drawing. So go to file tab and go to export, quick export as a PNG file, and we're exporting this, and we can name this floor 1 and click on save. So this is already exported. We can then open it again. So go to the file and let's refresh. Alright, so this is a file which we just exported. So right click and use open with, go to open with, and we can select Photoshop. So this is the file, or this is the plan we just created, and then from here we can make use of the filter and go to camera raw filter. And so from here we can make adjustment on the clarity, the vibrance, the saturation, exposure. So this will be on a different tutorial entirely. And for the purpose of this tutorial, to save time, I already have a preset template, so I'm going to work with this. So by the time I apply this, you could see how sharp and good looking this floor is looking like in Photoshop. So go ahead and play with this, and with this we can click on OK, and we have the final rendering of this floor plan in Photoshop. I hope you like this tutorial. Thanks for staying to the end, and I will catch you in my next tutorial.